So, Aries, lightning people, third scene change. I hope this is working properly. The third scene change. So we're now around lunchtime here, I think, something like that. And we've already been through a storm where you got wet with me, and then we've been into the shed, and now I've had to go and do an errand with my boyfriend, which, anyway, we're back. So that's something to do with this energy. So I'm recording this on the 9/9 portal, and it's a day of manifestation, and there are all these interruptions and external events being almost a sort of surprisingly disruptive, a bit like that tower energy. And I wonder whether that's something to do with this. So I think, just to recap, we know that there's this idea of these towers going on and you needing to take down these wrong thoughts. But at the same time trying to sort of hold on to something that feels like consistency for you. And we know that then the idea of the Ace of Pentacles was something that you can nurture into a new life. And that idea of the secret garden, that like these towers of thoughts that keep you apart from your sense of community give way to something very nostalgic and beautiful that is a bit like that secret garden where suddenly you're able to share and be part of a community, and it's incredibly life-giving to you. But you're still having sort of to battle off all these old thoughts with this Seven of Wands. And that feels really it feels a bit like my day so far, is that I'm in a really positive mood. My boyfriend's in a really positive mood. We went to a garage and it was so sort of, it was just supposed to be for a little kind of reset of something electrical on his car. And it ended up being a 2-hour journey, sat in, or 2 hours in this garage, sat in a room. It was full of, it was very neat and lovely and Italian, but full of this very strong acidic, I can taste it in my mouth, air freshener. And we kept waiting and waiting, and then eventually the guy came out and started sort of rah 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 rah, saying that my boyfriend had removed a sensor from his new car, which my boyfriend hadn't. He said, "Oh, you've taken it to another garage." There was almost these comical kind of interruptions to our peaceful day, and so it's a day like that. And I wonder whether that's something to do with you trying to stay in this garden, trying to stay in this peaceful space, and having to kind of fight off your wrong thought forms, but also just life. Like, it's a very idealistic environment that you find yourself in now. And how does one stay in that peaceful place? Stay, like hold on to the peace. When you realise that a lot of the stuff and nonsense that's going on around you is stuff and nonsense, you have this realisation. And you want to get through those, you've got that perspective of looking from those watchtowers, and you've suddenly sort of realised, oh, I don't want all of that. But then how do you stay in this new environment, or this incredibly natural environment that reminds you a bit like of being a child, and all that kind of nostalgia? And your hopes and fears here are to keep working on it. That you're going to have the concentration of this character and just keep your head down and focused on this new reality that you, his face is so clear to me today, the concentration on his face, like, I will not be taken off my path. He's really sat on that bench, he's very rooted, and actually there's a tree that all these pentacles are going up. Can you see? And it's a bit like those fingerprints that we saw in the clouds. Which card were they on? No, I'm thinking of another card. The Page of Pentacles. She's got, no, King of Pentacles, King of Cups. Sure we saw fingerprints somewhere. Maybe I'm mistaken. Regardless, it's a tree energy. It's a sort of, it's a natural energy that gives you a kind of a better basis for your energy. And in the near future, in the outcome, we had these two cards come out and then a bunch of court cards. So here we have you as the two of the High Priestess, the major two, staying with the sort of mysteries, staying in this very still, reflective space where you can contact your emotions, where you can be. These two characters are very watery. They're sort of the opposite of lightning, but they're very aligned to the moon, the insights that you might have gained in the moon in your inner self. They're this patch of land. You remember we were talking about this kind of halfway place between the world and where you want to go to. These two cards really represent that. And so we know you can do it. They're turning up here, and let's see what we see in these. High Priestess. Yeah, I'm looking at these funny palms with pomegranates behind her. They're like fans to cool the energy down from the lightning. Those. And she's got a little patch of red on the back of her hand, like she's been scalded by that lightning. But she's okay. She's staying still. She's not moving. And I'm looking at the sort of shading on the white pillar. So the black is very pure black with no white shading. But this one, this purity has been slightly tainted. You know, they're supposed to represent the melding of opposites, but there's something unequal about them today that I'm seeing, which is actually the white has been slightly tainted by the opposite and is holding the opposite, if you see what I mean, is holding the energy of all this chaos, or the other, all this other. But it's okay, she's still. And the King of Cups, yeah, the sea looks very rough around him today, and he looks very alert. Like he has to be on high alert to deal with all of this rough weather, like the storm that I was in yesterday. And his feet have got fish scales on them. So we know he's adapted to his environment. He looks slightly less relaxed than she does, but even she's slightly on high alert. And then there's something else interesting about the High Priestess. Do you see how these are supposed to be exact opposites, but this has two bands of white on the bottom and this just has one. And that one band reminds me of the magician's headband or scarf, or belt. And that belt turns up in the Page of Cups, and it also peeps out here in your hopes and fears, that you hope you can keep hold of that tiny bit of magic, that it was the initiation of this idea of what you're working on, and that now you're now bringing into fruition, like that Ace of Cups, Ace of Pentacles. So there's those two trying to hold still, hold the energy still, hold their position with all this weather and all this charging around. And then two swords, a pentacle and a queen, like a lot of other people's energy rushing towards you. Other people's expectations about what you want, what you're supposed to do is what I want to say. The expectations of others for how you should manage your wealth. A kind of cruel voice, I don't know why I'm saying it all like this, of kind of chastising from the King of Wands, sorry, King of Swords, and for the Queen of Wands, almost like a sort of magical distraction. That's such a strange message for me to get. It's just that they're such a strong cast of characters, and they seem to be like the weather. You know, is it this or is it that? Is it sunny and cloudy? You know, there's two yellow, two blue cards there. When I hold them up, it's like the sun coming and going, these clouds that you have to battle through, coming and going, and yet you're trying to stay still. I'm gonna pull, you never know, this might end up making some sense. It's really unusually confused to me, so whether I post this or not, but let's see what comes out with this commentary from the Enchanted Forest Tarot. Please could we have some comment from the Enchanted Forest Tarot for our lightning and our Aries people who are watching this. Two cards. We've got the Six of Challenges and the Six of Boons. Two sixes. Oh, and one other is stuck to this, I feel. There's something, yeah, stuck right behind. So those two sixes, and then hiding behind it, the Two of Boons. Okay, this feels promising. So two sixes that are about defending yourself. It looks like, or some vulnerability, and then a Two of Boons, where this guy is walking over this bridge, all happy, and look who's underneath. Oh, and he's balancing these two realities. Maybe this will make sense of it all. It's been such a crazy day. I don't know, maybe all that lightning that struck our earth last night leaves people in a bit of leaves the energy a little bit electrified and shakes everything up, which is what's happened to you and your thought processes as well. Shakes all your thought processes up, pulls sums down. Anyway, Six of Challenges, let's read that first. And because we'll read the two sixes first and then we'll read the two afterwards, because he was the one that was hiding. You just have to go with these processes. It's really fascinating. I mean, I suppose we pick up on the energies, and maybe there's something in it. I was thinking like this day of 9/9. Whenever you're watching this, what I find interesting is on the 8/8 portal, I was so aware of it because my feed kept telling me about it, and I was thinking, right, manifest, manifest, manifest. And I had the most lovely day, and I protected all my energies, and I stayed calm, and I thought about what I wanted to bring into to being. And then at the end of the day, I was invited to go to this play. And I'd had it in the back of my consciousness, People, Places, Things, and it was like the last week in London. And I thought, oh yeah, I've heard that's really good. I didn't know anything about it. And a lovely friend who lives out here had just texted in the morning and said, listen, I've got a spare ticket. Do you want to come? I'm in London. I thought, brilliant. I get to see her. I get to see the play. And it was a good play. It was really good. But it was a very disturbing subject matter. It was a bit like my experience today, and this sense of all these towers shaking and trying to sort of hold still, because it was about a woman going into recovery. So she spends 2 stints in a recovery clinic for drug and alcohol addiction, and it was very shouty, and there was strobe like a lighting, a bit like this lightning, and it was just such a sort of assault. And I've had a sort of similar experience today, and in fact for the rest of our day we have other obligations, so rather than being able to sort of devote our time to this ideal of manifesting and stuff, we're having to deal with real life. So maybe there's something in that. I don't know whether you relate to that, but I think that's the superpower, is being able to take all of that and not get knocked off course. That's what we're probably learning to do here. But anyway, 6 of Challenges. Meaning at a glance, retreat, deliverance from a dangerous situation, waiting for a danger to pass, a chance to regroup. You see the wolves at the bottom. And that's interesting, because when I was looking back over what I'd said before, when I was looking at the moon, I said you've got your tame dog and your wild wolf, and actually it's a wild fox. So maybe it's got something to do with these wolves. Phew, what a near escape, far too close for comfort. Dwarves don't usually climb trees if they can help it, but this dwarf scaled the ash tree as nimbly as a squirrel when the wolf started chasing her. There's no need for her to plan what to do next. Since she can't fight a pack of wolves, she needs to just wait them out. When they've lost interest in her, she can hurry home for a well-earned supper. When you are pursued by slavering wolves, the wisest course of action is to get out of their reach as quickly as possible. This card suggests that you should consider such a strategic retreat, perhaps an actual retreat away from home or work for a time. Give yourself a respite from strife, rest, recover, and plan your next step. Wolves in the mundane world aren't menacing, but the old world storybook wolves, notoriously big and bad, they will eat you up. So wolves aren't really threatening, but our ideas of what they represent. So it's something to do with your peace of mind being thrown, and maybe as a course of action is, when you have days like this which are so disrupted, is kind of retreat from these scary ideas that might not be as scary as we think they are. Okay, so that's 1-6. We've got the Six of Cups here as well. And then the 6 of Boons, which has got this character all curled up with her lovely rabbits, but she's also in some sort of retreat or sort of trying to protect herself in the forest as well. So 2 senses of trying to protect yourself. And this one, she's up a tree. She's gaining her sense of peace from being up a tree, a bit like you going, okay, I can't deal with all this lightning at the moment. I'm going to focus on this project I've got I've got everything stuck to the tree. 6 of Boons, meaning at a glance, help graciously offered and gratefully received, generosity, benevolence, caritas. I don't know what that means. Anyway, this is the 6 of Pentacles, and the 6 of Challenges is the 6 of Swords. So traditionally the 6 of Swords is you rowing yourself into a safer water space with all your parts and all your knowledge, all that you've learnt, these 6 swords. Like everything you've learnt from potentially those 6 towers that are coming down, that we see in the back of we know that the big one came down, and then we see all those towers in the back of this, and you're sort of holding on, trying to hold that's it, you're trying to hold your space with all these ideas crashing down and all this disruption. And maybe this is to do with the times that we live in now, where it feels like things are just kind of moving at such a pace and there's so much disruption, and you're trying to hold your position. Something made this woman run from her home. Something fearful enough to send her fleeing into the frosty forest in her bare feet. Who had bare feet? Oh yes, the lady who fell out of the tower. So maybe that's who she represents. Maybe this woman has actually been chucked out of her tower that doesn't work. In her panic, she's lost her way, and a light snow is obliterating any trace of her tortuous footprints. There's no way to go back, even if she wanted to, and no path forward that she can see. The night is drawing in, not knowing if she will wake again, and not caring very much either way. She curls up in the cold earth and surrenders to the exhaustion and despair. A quiet patter of paws on snow sifts into her dreams, and soft warmth surrounds her. Seeing her dire need, a colony of rabbits blankets her with love. How lovely. I'd like that. There will still be trials to overcome when she awakens, but she will make it through the night. There is kindness to be found, even in the bleakest situation. The world is full of gentle, furry creatures with big eyes who want to help and comfort you. Be ready to receive the unexpected assistance and selfless care. Your situation is about to get softer. Rabbits have a reputation for shyness, but they'll overcome it when necessary. So, 2 cards of a sort of lucky escape and a feeling of real vulnerability from all this that's having to be pulled down. It's very discombobulating. And then the 2 of Boons. Let's see. So he's going over his bridge with the ogre underneath. And the meaning at a glance: balance, steady attention, agility, taking care of your assets. Ogres, and then a closer look at ogres tend to blend into their surroundings, so they aren't always easy to spot. Vigilance is called for. If possible, peek under all bridges before crossing. A villager has been gathering firewood in the forest and is now wending his way home. The heavy baskets make a precarious burden, so keeping his balance on the narrow bridge could command his full attention, but his mind is elsewhere, not fully present with his task. His mind is elsewhere, not fully present with his task. It would be too easy to fall off the bridge and smash on the rocks below. Not a pleasant prospect, even before the factor in the ogre, who's underneath waiting for him. Wait, the ogre? An ogre is hiding under the bridge. There is a ferocious cannibal. This is a ferocious cannibal, and he would make quick work of a man if he fell. This card is a warning to not take on more than you can safely balance and attend to. There is something called the lazy man's load, where a person piles on the cargo to avoid having to make a second trip. Okay, that's interesting. And this rarely ends well. Work sensibly and give your full attention to your endeavour, or it will be lost. There are hidden influences just waiting for you to slip up. This sense of peril. And the bridge. Have we got the bridge anywhere else? No, but he's on his walk. This sense of peril. It's so interesting. A sense of peril and a near escape, okay, a bit like me leaning out of those windows, staring at the lightning, sort of amazed by it all, but actually it was dangerous. And I was nearly struck by lightning the other day as well, and that was dangerous, and I wasn't taking it seriously enough. So there's that sense in your reading as well of you're lucky, you are getting through this moment of assault, because there's something kind of lucky about these 6s. There's a kind of divine grace, but you still need to be on your alert. Now, let's see what the Shining Tribe Tarot has to add to this. The wonderful brain, Rachel Pollock. Please add some clarity, because it's a really strange, choppy energy today, and we want to know what this reading is all about. Rachel Pollock. 2 cards. The 3 of Birds, which is the 3 of Swords, and the 5 of Rivers, which is the 5 of Coins. Okay, well, let's have a look. Let's start with the 3 of Birds. I recommend these. They're wonderful, and she gives a different take on the traditional tarot, and she was an amazing tarot scholar. So pain, sorrow, heartbreak in the 3 of Swords, transformation through willingness to accept these experiences, the discovery of energy inside pain or depression. Well, that would make sense immediately, that we've got these trials of these thoughts or these towers, things that we've aspired to, and places have hidden ourselves. Coming down would be painful, and we want to hold on, and it's hard. The 3 of Birds. They cut secrets, scrape memories, they pierce pain, the swords of the heart. This is one of the two cards playing direct tribute to the Rider-Waite Minor Arcana by Pamela Coleman Smith. The other is the Nine of Stones. Smith's Three of Swords showed three swords piercing a heart. Here we see three swords with bird head hilts crossed in front of a hill. When they meet, each sword transforms into something new, a snake, a ray of light, and a river. Behind the hill, we see a red hand before a large rising moon. The Three of Swords speaks to us of the agonized heart. It tells us that we can do nothing but accept sorrow. The Three of Birds takes us to another stage. When a person has found the courage to acknowledge sorrow, it tells us that we can take hold of the energy of pain and transform it. This doesn't mean an escape, for transformation comes only when we go deep into our own experiences. The blood-red hand symbolised this willingness to enter sorrow, as if we touch our own wounded hearts. The moon that rises behind the hill signifies a willingness to turn away from the rational consciousness that explains away pain, analyses it intellectually, or finds distractions in outer activities such as the work of amusement. Or amusement, I think it's meant to say. The moon also represents divine grace, which supports and heals us when we are ready to accept pain. When we feel such emotional pain or depression or grief, it's always the same. These things bind us and hold us down. We feel a weight that crushes us to the dirt. When we begin to release that bound up energy, we discover that it can go in many directions. The snake symbolises visions, the light represents self-knowledge, the river released emotions. So that seems clearly about releasing all this pain from these sharp shocks, that maybe they're not just thought forms coming down, maybe they're things that you've relied on that feel like you feel really abandoned and set out into the forest, like this lady who's barefoot, like the lady thrown out of the tower. Maybe it's a time of deep upheaval for you, and now you're trying to rebuild. I'm really sorry if that's the case, but that wisdom is true. When we sort of allow the sorrow in, it starts to transform and become the energy, just that we discover the energy inside pain and depression, rather than being numbed out to it. We go there, and it reminds me of something my father always used to say when I was. He was really wise about lots of things, but not everything, like all of us. I remember being a bit depressed when I was 15, and I cannot for the life of me remember why, but it was probably hormonal or a boy or I don't know. And there was this sense, I remember saying I feel really down to Mum and Dad one night, and my mum saying, "Why? What do you feel down about?" And my dad saying, "It doesn't matter what you feel down about. Just go to your room now and sit and feel the pain, feel the feeling, and let it pass through you." And I have lived by that piece of advice. It's so amazing. It's helped me out in so many experiences, because he was so right. Like all emotions, they actually want to move quite quickly, but the ones that we're most frightened, for me it's grief, and depression now doesn't really plague me because I guess of that lesson. But by allowing it through me and just sitting with it and feeling it, I got into the energy of it and it transformed. So I wonder if there's something in there for you at this tower moment for you. Work on that. Work on really feeling it in order to go somewhere else. And then the Five of Rivers, which is also a card of deep pain, really. They go down, they go in, they weep for the elders, sing guidance for swimmers. They go down, they go in. It's the same advice. Accepting loss, adapting to new situations, grief, but also greater understanding, self-knowledge. Wow, what a profound reading. There's been some real grief, some real loss here for you, and you're just trying to hold it together. But I think this is you trying to sort of hold everything together at the expense of actually just feeling it and letting it go through your body. This simple image comes from the Native American Mimbres earthenware dated to around 1000 CE. In the original, a lozenge appears on the crane's belly. Here we see a dark sun matched by the sun shining in the sky. Various peoples have imagined a fish. So here we see a dark sun matched by that's on the middle of the image, matched by the shining sun in the sky. Various people have imagined a fish who carries the sun at night to its place of rebirth in the east. The extended neck of the crane recalls the spiral of fortune and signals that this card teaches us about change, literally flowing with the ups and downs of the events in our lives. In many tarot decks, the Five of Cups shows an image of loss and the need for acceptance. Sorry, the Five of Cups is, I was thinking of this as the Five of Pentacles. The Five of Cups is where, in the Rider Waite, we see the character staring at the 3 spilt cups and we say, turn around and look at those 2 behind, because that will get you over the bridge. But there's an added element to that bridge. Even if we're trying to be really positive, the bridge here is also, you need to concentrate. You need to be, because he's sort of trying to rush the process by overburdening himself. The lazy man's whatever they called it. He's trying to sort of deal with this whole feeling and just get over it and blah, blah, blah. And he might lose concentration and fall because he's not really in the present moment as he tries to get away from this. The famous Rider deck version of the cards depicts a sorrowful figure standing rigidly in a dark cloak while they look at the 3 spilled cups. Behind the figure, unnoticed, stand 2 upright cups. In the Shining Tribe Tarot, the rigidity has given way to acceptance. The river flows and up and down but remains just one river, just as our lives are a river with many turns. As a creature of water, the fish adapts to the bends. This card helps us accept where we are at this time in our lives, reminding us at painful moments that no situation remains forever. And in the famous words of an Anglo-Saxon bard who had lost his place at court, this too shall pass. The spiral of fortune spirals up to a brighter consciousness, an implication of action to come. Here the head spirals down and inward, like the snake of the High Priestess, and we've got the High Priestess in your end. You accepting your feelings, learning from, that's interesting, you learning from this deep stillness of your feelings, just seeing the High Priestess sees the beauty in everything and understands the truth in everything and doesn't necessarily need to put words to it. She's just very present and watches very carefully. So I think there's a real message in that. The snake of the High Priestess, this gives the card a quality of introspection and self-discovery. We're nearly there. Yeah, that's it. Accepting loss, adapting to new situations. It's funny, when I woke up this morning, I'd had a really funny dream and I can't remember the tone of it. I can remember the tone of it and I can remember a couple of details of it. But the feeling was of a gathering of all these people that represent people who are a little bit unresolved to me. Friends of mine that are kind of peripheral friends who might be looking in the wrong place might be a bit in denial, interestingly. And I had this feeling of, this is really sort of, because basically yesterday, these videos that you're going to be seeing, I have been making for very many months to check that I like doing this and I love doing it. But yesterday I actually started the channel, would you believe it? So these are going to go live soon after. And I think there was an anxiety to it. When I woke up, I thought, but it was something to do with, I don't want to, I would hate to be contributing to this space by making things seem always better than they are. And that was the feeling. It was this party and this gathering and everyone was looking for solace in ways that weren't, or for sort of entertainment in ways that weren't really, that were denying what was really going on. There was that feeling with the characters who were there. That's the feeling I woke up with. And I definitely woke up with the worry, because I haven't put any of these videos up yet, the worry that, oh gosh, I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish about this. And my given name was Philippa, and that's how I'm identifying myself here. But my name that I've always gone by is Pippa or Pip in the real world, like since I've been very young. And there's a poem by Browning called Pippa Passes. I don't know whether that's what my parents were thinking about, and I don't really know that much about it, but it's this sense that wherever Pippa goes, she sort of makes everything feel better. And that sounds like I'm being really, I'm saying it in a derogatory way, like sometimes you can't make things feel better. And I wouldn't want this channel to be a space of denial. I want it to be comforting. I want it to be able to pivot your feelings and help you gain the marrow out of whatever you're experiencing. But I know it won't be helpful if it's always just telling the happy story, because we all go through very, very sad times. Like it seems that the people here, a lot is being pulled down, and it is a sad time in the world. And in some ways, you know, it's a time of deep insecurity anyway, and we have to stay with those lessons. So I think it's interesting that this then reading came out, which is was so interrupted and staccato, and a feeling as if I couldn't get to the truth. And right at the end, we have got to the truth, and the truth is that sometimes things are unpalatable, but that's part of life. And the amazing thing is that if you sit with the feelings, if you just allow them, they then become like the river, that flowing river. And I hope, rather than being a distraction like my dream, where all these characters were sort of trying to distract themselves with things that weren't really them, and this party, this gathering of kind of denial in a way, and sort of slightly silly behaviour, I don't want that. I want for you what I want for myself, which is to be able to face life as it comes to us, and always face towards the positive, and always create what we want to create, but accept that the darkness, that the feelings that the King of Cups has, and the darkness and the mystery that the High Priestess is able to sit with, is part of that fabric, and a really rich part that that, funnily enough, maybe any of these characters, yeah, these are aspects of our characters. I'd see it now. You know, the Page of Swords would try and get up above those clouds and make a plan. This is exactly what it is. It's about our kind of denial attitudes. Right, I mean, it's lovely energy. It's a productive energy, but she's trying to ignore the swords. The King of Pentacles is so sort of resplendent, and he's got his eyes averted here, and he's just thinking about his wealth in this picture to me. And the King of Swords, you know, again, he's not interested in those clouds. He's got his back to them. He doesn't want to engage in them. And the Queen of Wands wants a distraction. She's a bit like the characters in my dream. Her cat knows the truth, but she's not looking. She's looking. She wants to look to something fun and magical that she can produce. She doesn't want to sit with these energies like the High Priestess and the King of Cups. I'm going to pull one final comment from the Latour Tarot, which is I bought from Etsy some time ago, and I've been back on her channel, and it says temporarily suspended. And she does beautiful things, so that's a pity. So she's giving us 4 cards. How lovely. The Eight of Wands, the King of Cups again, that's what she wants us to think about. The Chariot, her lovely version of the Chariot that really highlights the stars, and then the Ace of Cups, a new beginning. So finally we get to another new beginning, like the one that we see in your potential outcome. And the way we get to it is with these wands that are actually arrows here. I might talk about journaling, because it's always about messages and focus. This for me, is that a way that you're going to metabolize or speaking about your truth. And then the King of Cups, he looks much more in command than our Rider-Waite one. Look, he's fine, he's bossing it. He's amazing. And he's got the moon behind him, interestingly. So he's in charge of these feelings now, even though the water's terribly rough. And it's a woman, but she's dressed in a kind of man's outfit, which is interesting. She's got a little fish. She's got a kind of Pam Gregory neck. I don't know if anyone knows Pam Gregory, the most amazing astrologer. She always wears very high neck collars, which we all love. And the Chariot, she heads now towards her destiny by the light of the stars, by her instincts. She's going to make it to where she needs to go. Again, the moon there, the moon of the High Priestess. She's using that energy to take her into new territories. And then the Ace of Cups. All that emotion, all that water, filling your cup up, filling up, giving you a new opportunity because you're able to deal with that waterfall of emotion. I'm just going to read the little meanings because they'll have, so Eight of Wands, the Lord of Swiftness, Mercury in Sagittarius, communication, swiftness, travel, arrival, focus, driven towards a goal. A volley of 8 arrows flying through the sky. They pierce the air, swiftly making their way to their target. They are all headed in the same direction with a common focus. The Eight of Wands points to a quick communication, whether via messages, email, on the phone. The swift energy can also refer to air travel or connectivity via the internet. Whatever the situation, things are happening quickly. That's a bit like we had the in your near future, the Knight of Swords, who's very quick. Whether the question is about love or business, this card signals the arrival of one goal the arrival of a goal one has been striving towards. So the goal being, in this case, I think posed by the cards, the goal being to accept and transmute your emotions after all this disruption. And the King of Cups, more disruption happening now because Giovanni's starting to do something quite noisy in the background. It's his garden, it's his right, but it's just so funny. I wonder whether you can hear it because I've got the microphone. Maybe it gets rid of it a bit. Come on, Cups, where are you? Because I'm really interested in the way this lady is inhabiting the King of Cups energy. The Lord of the waves and waters, the King of hosts and the sea, King of the nymphs and the undines. Do you remember I was talking about the nymphs that Iris is related to, who live up there? So maybe this is a message. And Iris is about messages, and she was on the Temperance card, these two messages. So maybe these are messages coming to you from Spirit. Considerate, stable, confident, creative, wise, open-minded, kind-hearted, imaginative. The King of Cups stands upon a rocky, wave-splashed shore. The roiling ocean behind his back doesn't faze him. The moon is full, yet his demeanour is one that is confident and self-possessed. They are dressed in their best, standing tall with their cane in their right hand. Cups kings are leaders of the realm of emotion and spirit. They're stable, kind and open-minded mentors. This king has mastered their emotions. They are fair, considerate, dynamic, creative, wise, channeling their emotions positively and sensibly with calm understanding. They are avid supporters of the healing and mystical arts as well as the creative arts. Is that it? I think it is. How amazing. So it might indicate that because you're able to now metabolize your feelings, that might be where you're headed. And the Chariot, well, I've read this one recently, but we'll read it again. So she's the 7. The child of the powers of water, again, in charge of the waters, the Lord of triumphant light. Journey, receptivity, will, ambition, duty, vows, purpose, victory, triumph, mastery, skills, shelter, home, protection. The body as a vehicle for spirit. This charioteer charges forth on a quest, travelling with the momentum of will, ambitious and purposeful in her desire to reach her goal, a bit like those Eight of Wands. At the same time, she carries the empathic and sensitive energy of Cancer, which is ruled by the emotive moon. So what it's saying is you can still be goal-directed. You can still go somewhere. You don't need to get stuck in that Four of Pentacles thing. Just because an emotion's there, it doesn't mean you're drowning and stopped. And this is a message I could really learn from, because I've been grieving recently, and it makes me feel like I'm just stopped and nothing can happen. And this is saying the opposite. You can go on your quest, but with the wisdom of these emotions. I love this. You can head toward your goal. At the same time, she carries the empathic and sensitive energy of Cancer that is ruled by the emotive moon. The waters of receptivity feed her intuition. She drives a chariot, her shell of protection, symbolizing her body as a vehicle for her spirit. Black and white horses represent opposing aspects of her being, and she harnesses to propel herself forward, like the black and white towers of the pillars of the High Priestess. A star crowns her and adorns the curtain, showing cosmic forces at work. Amazing. It's saying after the tower, we don't have to just collapse. We can keep going, but our way of going is by acknowledging the feelings. And then finally, the Ace of Cups, glasses back on. I think we got somewhere in the end if you bothered to stay all this time. Thank you. The root of the powers of waters. It's all about the powers of emotions. Love, happiness, an increase of emotions, a new love, friend or pregnancy, intuitive insights. An ornate gilded cup is being filled by a waterfall representing the abundance of life. Birds fly low near its base, which rests in calm waters, a symbol of the emotions. All aces speak of new beginnings, and this one signifies something new related to the heart. Ace of Cups represents the power of new love and the happiness it brings. There's an outpouring of joy and emotional fulfillment which is abundant and sweet to the heart. This ace may introduce the start of a new relationship. It could refer to fertility, pregnancy and birth. That's interesting, because I've always seen the Ace of Pentacles as that. So we've got two cards of that. Ace of Cups brings creative inspiration or even a visitation from the muses. Whatever the situation, it brings positive omens with joyful possibilities. So 3 water cups, and what was the wands? That's got to have been fire. Mercury and Sagittarius, the Lord of Swiftness. And what was this Ace of Cups? Whatever the situation, it brings joyful omens with joyful possibilities. Good omens with joyful possibilities. It's like you've travelled through this maelstrom and you've ended up at a new beginning again. But you have to harness those emotions, and you don't need to be stopped in your tracks. That's what the that's what the Chariot and the 8 of Wands are saying. But in order to keep the wind in your sails, or to keep moving in that water of it, you have to be able to accept those emotions. Don't go into denial of them. We got there at the end. And you have to remain, don't go into denial, don't just try and push on through. You have to do the work. And we know that you're hurt, but there are divine influences here that want to protect you. And they kind of reside somewhere in your in your childhood, in this space that's a bit like the secret garden that I was saying in the beginning. And that's interesting, sorry, just to bring it all round. You know those characters I was talking about in the secret garden? Those children, those 2 children who are so foul to start with, they're very hurt. And they've never been given the way to deal with their emotions. That's exactly it. The one daughter is abandoned by her parents when they're alive, and then literally abandoned when they die, and has been given no true love. And so she resides in a prickly, brittle, demanding, bratty space, okay? Because no one loved her. No one dealt with her feelings of pain. And she arrives in this house, and there are people trying to deal with her pain, but she doesn't really want to go there. these servants, who, particularly the girl that's with her all the time, is kind. And then the gardener is kind, and it takes her a while to allow herself into her heart because she's never been taught to be in that space. This is exactly it. And then the boy has been abandoned by his father. Sorry, so many spoilers, but I doubt you're going to go and pick up The Secret Garden. And if you would, I imagine you would have read it already. So this boy who thinks he's dying and who thinks his body is broken is like that because his father, his mother died when she was giving birth to him, so his symbol of love left, and the father's symbol of love left when he was just a babe, when he was first born. And so the father sees him as something that took all love from him, that took his own connection to his heart. And he then cannot bestow love upon his surviving child. And so the child is left again not taught how to love, not taught how to be in his feelings, not given any comfort by his parents. That's so moving. But they both, oh, I've got tingles, but they both manage to get into their feelings by being in nature, by getting into that garden. That's where you're true, and going and accepting the help, even when they feel like the wolves are underneath their tree, accepting the help that's all around you. Even when things are really bad, you're being given so much angelic help, so much help from those people. If you can open your eyes to the people who can connect with you, and then they can start to sort of thaw because they get into their hearts. And once they get into their hearts and they go through all the kind of prickly bits at the beginning because there's so much pain that they've stored up that they have to be a bit bratty and horrible and blah, blah, blah. But the seasons roll with them, and they thaw out just as the spring comes into being, and they both turn into delightful children. All under the tutorage of this kid called Dickon, who can talk to all of the animals and who's in contact with his feelings deeply. And then his mother, who's the ultimate mother, kind of is able to connect to the children, and they're all able to connect, and everything ends up lovely. Okay, I've done that thing of making it all sounds wonderful, and it's not always easy, but I do really believe that as long as we face our trials and feel the feelings, we always cycle through to a happier time. And thank goodness. And there is always this kind of rumbling up and downness of life, but we can always get back there. And the stiller we are, and the more we appreciate what's around us, and the more we accept what's in our feelings, we can mine it for gold. I hope that helps. I hope you're not having too much of a hard time. Try not to stay in your denial characters. Try to be still and feel your emotions. And thank you for sticking with me on this crazy journey today. See you again.